wow, I can genuinely create money and I don't need to go and trade my time at a job for it. Like it's like a game seeing this, but it's real money coming in. It blew my mind.
What sets you apart? Why could you do it and others haven't been able to?
A lot of it was down to timing. It was perfect product market fit. It could have failed 100 times between the point we launched and now. Close to $40 million later, we're in over almost 400 Ulta Beauty stores in the US, launched 3-4 different types of IPLs. We have more innovation coming. We're definitely the market leaders in at-home IPL. If you could write your goals for what you want a business to look like in the first year, we were the typical e-com startup success story. Like, me mentally had to outgrow where I was in life to be able to start this whole journey of Happy Skin Co and what it's become. But then you get to a point where I wasn't growing fast enough to what my goals were and what I wanted to achieve. So I will bite off more than I can chew, fuck it up a little bit as go through the teething process, and then catch up to where I'm starting to manage better at keeping all these, projects in the air and putting enough of myself into that.
What's the plan for the next 5 years?
It's all like pushing myself forward to grow and then moving my life in the direction that I know is taking me closer to being in a position to fulfill my true life's purpose. All right, back again. We have a very different episode this time. Look at Joe, the big smile on his face. For anyone who is watching on YouTube, who is a small part of our audience anyway, but for the few that do watch on YouTube, you'll notice I'm actually on the other side of the desk today, which means I am not hosting. I'm actually going to be the guest. It's going to be big producer Joe's debut on the mic. He's usually the one sitting behind the roadcaster, pressing all these buttons, setting up the cameras. But he's going to ask me the questions today. Kind of the reason behind this is when we launched this podcast, what episode is this going to be? Like 14? Right?
13.
13?
Yeah.
No, Mitch was 13, right?
No, he was 12.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, lucky number 13, I guess I am. Obviously, pretty much everyone who was listening knew who I was, so there's been a lot of new listeners come on board from the last couple of months of episodes. And for people who don't know who I am, I think it was just a good opportunity to, Joe to ask me questions. I don't know what the questions are, just like our guests when they come in. So go easy on Joe with his question asking. But yeah, he's going to run through it and we're going to get to know me a little bit more and kind of the journey I went on to get here. Obviously, I'm sure we'll speak about Happy Skin Co and what we did with that, and then why we started the podcast. And then just if it wasn't already a challenge enough, there was a miscommunication with our other videographer. We actually have 3 podcasts we're recording this week, so it's a pretty hectic schedule. But there was something went wrong with invites. I don't know, Joe. But now, not only is Joe going to be in the podcast, but he's going to be the one who still has to set up the cameras, and you might see him jump up once or twice throughout the pod to make sure everything's still recording. So I'll let you take it away from there, Joey. Cool. Good luck, big debut.
Alrighty, let's jump into it. Yes, that was actually my fault for the miscommunication, but you live and you learn. All right, cool. Well, let's start sort of from the beginning, just to give everyone a bit of context of who you are, and really sort of set the scene. So, who is Dylan?
Who is Dylan? What a good question. To be honest, it's something I ask myself every day. I'm obsessed with who I am and purpose and why I'm here. It's something I think probably a lot more about than most people. And I'll tell you the truth, I'm still figuring it out. Here we ask a lot of people, like, what is their purpose? And a lot of people say, yep, this is what it is. For me, I'll be honest with you. Purpose is, I don't know, it's something I think about deeply, and I'm not 100% sure yet exactly what my purpose is. And I'll admit that. I know a lot of the things I'm doing and the path I'm going on, it's going down the right path. But when I talk about purpose, I'm talking about the one true calling why me, Dylan Mullan, is put on this planet. And I know, business will be a part of my journey. I know speaking and what we're doing with the podcasting and starting to give back and impact the world outside of myself and my inner circle, that's part of it. But I've known for a long time there's going to be one great mission that comes up in my life, and it's going to be sticking up for some sort of, or creating a movement to push something forward or standing up for something I believe in. And I'm not sure exactly what that's going to be. There's a few things that really do move me. I love everything about mindset, as you know, personal development, growth. That's going to be a big part of it. But is that my purpose to share that? I'm not 100% sure. As you know, I was very, very close with my granddad who died from Alzheimer's. He had that for 5 years. So I'm very passionate about Alzheimer's and dementia. And I've spoke about it many times before, want to start a foundation in his name one day. And maybe when that day comes, that will grow in. I'll be like, no, this is exactly my purpose. And I've got a gut feeling that maybe that's a part of it, but maybe that's not it for me. So again, I'm still figuring it out. I'm excited to wake up every day and learn more about myself, who I am, what my goals are, because I'm not the type of person who can just sit up and this has been a blessing, but also a curse, and just kind of go through the motions, or set a black and white goal. I want to be exactly here in a year and have no flexibility to express myself and, go with the ebbs and flow of life. And if something really interests me and I want to explore that sort of a project, I can be guilty of it, like a lot of people that are in business do, get shining object syndrome. That's new, that's exciting. And I'm aware of that. And I think that's okay, in the sense that as long as these new projects I take on are moving me in the right direction of getting closer to fulfilling that purpose, whatever that may be, I'm always going to say yes to that. And sometimes, I've been guilty at times of spreading myself a little bit too thin, which is why recently I've had to say no to a lot of opportunities and a lot of things. And I've got a lot on my plate right now, but I think I'm really excited about what I've got working on for right now, but also to come out in the next 6 to 12 months. So yeah, I don't know. It's something I think about a lot. And when I get the final answer, I'll let you know.
Yeah, well, look forward to it, and I look forward to being along with the journey as
well. What about you? Who is Joe Cat? For people who don't know, this is our producer, Joe. He's been working. Everyone's seen the podcast launch about 3 months ago, but Joe's been working behind the scenes for probably about almost a year. So there's been a lot of work to get to where we are today.
Yeah, like you said, I'm still sort of trying to figure that out as well. With, I guess, there's a lot of things that I want to achieve, and I have big goals and ambitions, which was why I was sort of drawn to want to work with you in the first place anyway. But yeah, for me, I'm just sort of working on myself mentally, physically, wanting to be the best person that I can be. I guess going and getting into self-development probably from the age of 18 was when I started self-development and like what mindset is and all of that stuff. And then from there, you just realize, there's a massive, as soon as you learn something, you realize how much more there is and how much you got to work on. And that's like all these things from like past traumas that you don't even know about, as like, this is the reason I act this way is because of this random thing, or my relationship with my father, or my relationship with my mother, and stuff like that. So working on those things. But yeah, still trying to figure it out. I think for me, it's the journey, and a big realization that I've actually had recently with all of this and working and doing what we do is like, it sounds really corny, but like the process and that is so incredibly, I guess, important is the point. Like that's the whole thing. Yeah. And for me, a bit of a tangent, but for me, growing up, like getting into the workforce, I've had plenty of jobs. Yeah. I've started in real estate and done sort of worked my way up and did like banking and all these things. And for me, I never stayed in a job for more than 6 months because if I didn't like it, I was like, not for me. And just been able to sort of do this and even be on this now and interviewing you is probably like one of the things that I'd have on my vision board and have had on past vision board. So that stuff's really cool.
Well, while you were talking, I thought of an answer to the previous question, and it's something that I've kind of been aware of since I got into self-development and personal growth, probably maybe when I was early 20s, maybe 21, 22, I really started to get obsessed with growth. And although I wouldn't say it's to my truest core, this is the answer, this is my purpose, but to me, to probably most accurately describe it right now, what is my purpose? And it's going to sound so cheesy, but it's to become the best version of myself, to every day be striving to become a better person, not only in terms of, fitness and health goals or financial goals or business goals, but be a better human being, be more caring, more thoughtful, more patient. So that is a massive goal of mine. But to me, all that I'm working on myself to show up every day and over the years become a better person, to me is linked to I need to do that so then I can fulfill whatever that big grand purpose is for me. So it's kind of linked, but if I had to answer it, that's probably another really good way, even though it's going to sound cheesy to some people, but it truly is. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So a lot of obviously what you're talking about revolves around business. So for people that haven't heard it, let's sort of get into the Happy Skin Code journey and how that all started. I remember, listening to many podcasts of you talking about it. And when I first actually learn about you and who you are and the business, I was binging any podcast you're on. So let's sort of get into that. And how did you start Happy Skin
Yeah,
Co?
honestly, and I'm extremely grateful for this. What me and George did with Happy Skin Co in the early days, we were if you could write your goals like for what you want a business to look like in the first year, we were the typical e-com startup success story, like the way you would imagine it. And it was almost happened quicker than we ever expected, right? We saw like this started, we launched the business at the start of 2018, April 2018. We started working on this business probably mid 2017, the year before. And as you know, me and George, we worked together at the gym at Crunch, who you know all about. And we were both just, hardworking, pretty smart guys, or we'd like to think so anyway. And we're both ambitious, and we both wanted to start a business. We both also were acting as well, which just happened to be randomly. We were at the same gym and at the same acting studio, and we didn't really know. So that's kind of how we came together. But we're both very ambitious, and we wanted to think about how we can take more control of our life and, go for our big goals rather than just, okay, how can I get a job in corporate and slowly work my way up? Because that was never, for me anyway, never going to fulfill me. So we started talking about it. I remember George went overseas to Europe in our winter, their summer. And before he left, we're like, yes, we go, have fun. We get back, we're going to sit down and we're going to come up with the business. And at that point, we didn't know what the business would be. We knew it would be e-com. We were 90% sure it'd be e-com. And we were pretty sure that it was going to be in beauty just because how much the beauty niche was exploding in e-commerce and kind of the buying behaviors and the patterns we had observed over the previous years. But apart from that, we had no idea. So George went on his trip and came back, and then we're like, sweet, let's do it. We didn't know what we're working on yet, but we scheduled. I think we were doing like, let's do at least 2 weekdays. It was like Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then either at a minimum one, like a half day on the Saturday or Sunday. Obviously, once we had the business idea, it ended up being way more than that. But that's how we started, and we didn't know what it was going to be. And it probably took us 3 or 4 weeks from when we properly actively started thinking of ideas until we got the idea that ended up becoming Happy Skin Co. I remember at the start, man, you're going to laugh, some of the ideas we had, like one thing that stands out, and there were so many silly ideas, but one thing I remember we were going to do was, I don't know why we thought this was a good idea, but was a vegan dating app. So self-explanatory dating app for vegans, because that, like, especially back then, 6 years ago, it was more niche than it is now. So we planned out, sort of how it would work and what it might look like. But then pretty quickly we realized, it's going to be a really long build. It's really niche. Is it something we're really passionate about? No. I can't remember some of the other weird ones, but I remember there were some really silly things. But then in the part, because we didn't know about Alibaba back then. If we knew about Alibaba, the process to find a product would have been really quick. We didn't know about any of that existed. But I remember one day we saw an ad for a product. It was like, it must have been like a drop shipping product, even though we didn't know what drop shipping was at that time. It was a drop shipping product. It was a little like razor, like a little electric or battery powered shaver, and it had a little light on it, so you could see your hairs. That was their thing. I'm never missing a fucking hair. Yeah, whatever. So we saw that, and then we're like, fuck, is this a laser hair removal thing at home? Like, we didn't know that existed, and obviously it turned out it wasn't. But then we started speaking, like thinking, okay, is this something that exists? Is this something we could do? We know if we can create a product to do like essentially laser hair removal at home, it would be a massive thing, because how popular it was among people. It turned out obviously that product wasn't it. And then because we didn't know about Alibaba, that we could find a network of manufacturers that have products ready to go. We spent a couple weeks from there researching technologies. I remember one of the technologies, it was like, essentially what it did was like, you burnt off the hairs. Like, I think there was a competitor in that space, and I think it's called like the No, or maybe the Yes, some weird name like that. And you literally burn off the hairs. And apparently if you do that, it takes longer to grow back. And then we started hitting up product engineers, like product designers, engineers, DMing them, finding them on LinkedIn, saying, hey, this is kind of our idea, can you help with it? And then I don't know. I honestly don't remember how we come across it, but we found a manufacturer, not through Alibaba or anything, and then we started working with them. We said, hey, this is our idea. This is what we're going to do. They had a similar product because we were so early on the at-home IPL hair removal like game. Like there may have been a couple other brands out there, definitely not in Australia. Like we got on the technology in from these handsets was really created by these companies 6 months before. Like that's all their patents are 6 months before we launched. So it was really new. And then we remember saying, okay, this is kind of the product that they had developed. Because we didn't know what white labeling was back then. We didn't even think of, okay, let's just take it out of the box and put our logo on it. We didn't know that was a possibility. This is how naive we were to business and e-com and this whole world before we started. So we said, no, we want to, do X, Y, Z with the product and X, Y, Z with the packaging. Can you do that? They said yes. Started working with them for like testing some stuff. And then we found Alibaba. We must have, I don't know how we found our current manufacturer, but then by that time we did like a bit of a tender process where we knew what we wanted by this point because we kind of developed a 1.0 with this manufacturer. And then we kind of sent the brief out to, 3, 4, 5 other manufacturers. And then the person who came back with the best product, the best quality, could work with us. Obviously, the price had to be competitive to the other ones. But then the big thing for us that the first manufacturer didn't really have was the ability to scale with us. Because even though our first order, we ordered 110 units, we really did have visions to grow it into a massive brand. So we ended up going with our current manufacturer. We've been with them from the start. I've been over in their warehouses to meet their team and all the employees, and it was a really, really good eye-opening experience, but eye-opening in a good way. When you're going over to these factories, you're not sure what you're going to see or what the conditions will be like, but we were blown away by, it was literally like walking into a medical facility and as it should be, but Rosen, like it was just so professionally done. And then, we got the product, bro. We ordered 110 units, a couple delays. We did booking shoots with friends, for favors, for free product, doing it in our friends' houses. Like if you see our first bunch of ads we did, oh, bro, you would cringe. But the funny thing is we actually paid for those ads. So anyway, they clearly worked because here we are today. But we launched, man. We had 110 units was our first order. We had 10 put aside to send out to influencers and 100 to sell. And that whole initial investment from the stock, the ads, the website, everything, the registration of the business was about $20,000 in total. And then we launched day one, about 11:30 at night, just about to go to bed. Literally getting in bed and I get a call off George and he goes, dude, we just got our first sale. So I'm like fucking buzzing, as you can imagine. I jump in my car, drive over to his place, which is like 5 minutes away. And we're cheersing champagne. We're just saying like, look, this proves that there's a need for the market. People want it. We'd probably spend like $50 to $100 a day on ads at that point. Sold our first one, buzzing, as you can imagine, go home. Day two, while in this process, we're still working our full-time jobs that we I can only speak for myself, fucking hated. Working in sales and business development, selling products that I was not passionate about, literally pens and papers and computers and technology and all that sort of stuff. And no sales, but we didn't panic day two. We said, look, no, this is going to be a process. It's fine. We know this product is a really good product. We know our branding's really good. We thought it was at the time. Obviously, it's come a long way since then, but we're all good. And then it comes to the third day, which was a Wednesday. And as you know, I do martial arts. I was literally in my gear, dressed, ready to go, about to leave. Get a call from George and he goes, dude, we just got our second sale. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that's mad. And then, the Shopify cha-ching that goes off? Yep. It goes off again. And I'm like freaking out. What the hell? Like 2 sales in like the space of like less than 5 minutes. Like, what is going on? This is amazing. And then I'm chatting to him. I'm like, oh, I got to go. This is mad. I'll call you as soon as I'm done. This is incredible. And then we get another one. That's 3, like the third sale within like 5 minutes. And I'm like, screw this, fuck it. I'm not going to training. I'm coming over. We're going to, obviously celebrate the small win. We cracked another bottle of champagne, but we're just going to work. Like, we're so G'd up. Like, this is like, you look at it like a game. The first time you launch a business and like it's, $300 for sale coming in. This is real money for the first time. Like, wow, I can genuinely create money and I don't need to go and trade my time at a job for it. Like it's like a game seeing this, but it's real money coming in. It blew my mind. And it turned out our first influencer had posted. So he posted, I've told this story before, but again, quickly, when we were recruiting those first 10 influencers to send out the products, he was one of them. He had about 20,000 followers at the time. But he was from, which we didn't even know, he was from The Bachelor in Paradise. And because there was a couple delays launching and probably a few weeks, we hit him up. He had 20,000 followers. He agreed to do it just in exchange for the product. And then probably about 4 weeks later when we actually launched, he had 50,000 followers because they're on TV 3-4 nights a week. And to his credit, he was a legend. He's like, no, I agreed to do it for that. I'll still post it for you. And from the space of when he posted about 7:30 at night until midnight, we'd made $7,500, which is like almost half of our investment. We ended up selling out that whole 100 units in the first week. So then, as you can imagine, we took all that money and we bought 200, and then we sold all that in like a week or two again, and then we bought 400, and then we bought 1,000, and then we just invested all the money we could into more stock, and then we were just selling it, working with influencers, running Facebook ads. It took us probably until we were at month 4 or 5 until we were fully caught up in stock and we were ahead. We were like, what we did, this is so funny, but because we were so far behind, we were like handwriting cards to all our customers and putting little candy canes in. I don't know why we did. Was it candy canes or lollipops? I think it was lollipops, little love heart lollipops saying, so sorry, it'll be here as soon as it is. And then as every batch of stock came in, back then we were very lucky that it's not the prices of shipping aren't what they are today because we were express freighting it in. So it meant the longest someone would wait would be a month, which now if it was a month to produce it and then 5-6 weeks on a ship, then it wouldn't have worked if we were doing this. But my average wait time was probably around 2 weeks. Some a little bit more, some if they timed it well, they wouldn't be waiting. We did all those, sent them all out. Every time we'd get stock in, I was like, all right, let's strap in me, George, my little brother Ryan, and George's mum. It was in George's living room. We had all the stock on one side. We'd put them into our bubble bags and put them into our shipping bags and then smash them all out. Then since then, man, it's been a ride. Close to $40 million later. We've over almost 400 Ulta Beauty stores in the US, launched 3-4 different types of IPLs. We have more innovation coming. We're definitely the market leaders in at-home IPL. George obviously left a while ago and he's gone and built another fucking incredible business in the hair care space. So, man, it's been a ride. I could talk to you for hours and hours about what we did at Happy Skin Co, but maybe we can save that for another day to take it from that first year to, really build year 2, year 3 to become a massive brand and that stands for something and has continually better, higher performing, higher quality products. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No,
cool story,
I've heard it a few times and still even hearing it again, it's really cool. And I think one of the smartest things Shopify did was that noise because the first time and this is what I was saying to Yui, our videographer. Yeah. Like when that goes off for the first time, it is I haven't had a better feeling than that because it was and for people that don't know, I had a brand for a while and ended up selling it. But it was the best feeling and it just validates your hard work and your idea of like, it becomes like a drug addiction though. Every time it goes off, you get this little buzz of serotonin. And then you know what? I tell you when like one little milestone when you know, not that you've made it, but you've made it is like when you have to turn that off. You know what I mean? I can't fucking hear this thing buzzing 200-300 times a day. Like it sounds weird that it becomes annoying, but you just get to the point. But early days, man, it keeps you going. That little cha-ching sound is the best. Yeah. All right, cool. So then you've had this success with Happy Skin Co. Now I've sort of been around people in e-commerce. I've have friends that have brands and things like that. And now the one thing with e-commerce is it's such a low barrier of entry and it's such a industry that's growing massively. And there's so much need for it and it's growing, right? Thousands of people have probably attempted to have a brand. Not many people actually do succeed and there's different levels of success. For some people, that's just being able to live off the income from that. For others, it's $1 million or whatever it is. Why were you and George, and why were you successful when a lot of other people haven't been.
Like you mean that first year,
Just in general with the brand, like the brand making what it has, what sets you apart? Why could you do it and others haven't been able to?
Well, the first year was a lot of it was down to timing. I'll be honest with you, timing. You can never replace that. It was perfect product to market fit in terms of there was a massive need there. But if you look at what was in our control, product selection, right? I see so many people start up brands with products, and I think, what are you thinking, man? Can you seriously see this being like a multiple year business around this product? And we were never looking at it to make it a short-term 6-month cash grab. We wanted to build a brand. So identifying a product that we saw could be a really cool, like, key product to build a brand around, which we did, and we identified it. But then also we validated our ideas. Like, again, we were so green in the e-com space. We didn't know, about all the product, like product research tools you could use. So what we were doing, we had heaps of survey monkeys, and literally every time we'd be chatting to a girl, we'd ask them about, okay, hey, have you ever done laser hair removal? How much did it cost you? How long did you do it for? Why did you stop? What were all the pain points? You know what I mean? And then it got to the point we spoke to hundreds of women in Sydney, and easily 95% of them had done laser hair removal at a certain point. So we knew there was a need there for the product. And then we were very, very early into that product being launched. And again, there's only so many like blue whale products that come around. Like you look at, what High Smile did with the teeth whitening kit, what we did with that,
the clay
multiple clay masks and stuff. They'll come around once a year or once every 2 years. And if you can be very early, you don't have to be first, but you need to be the best. It helps to be early, and then you need to be the best. So we found a product that really worked, but then, man, like that was just step one. It could have failed 100 times between the point we launched and now. Is you always have to be like looking at what you can be doing better and learning from your mistakes, learning from what wins, and then the attitude we had towards scaling. If we found something that was doing really well, we would double, triple, quadruple down on it. We would like spend like at one point, like our first year Black Friday, so we launched in 2018. This is when our business changed because we fully unlocked the power of Facebook ads. A lot of, I'd say, and from we launched in April till November, definitely most of our sales came from influencers from that period, definitely a far majority. But then from the point of our first Black Friday campaign where we really learnt the power of setting up multiple campaigns and day trading accounts and dumping heaps of budget into different things, that's when we realized, well, how scalable this business was. So doubling down on what worked, Again, we brought in a finance manager. I brought in a finance manager probably 18 months after we launched, and it was a really good time that we did that because we were doing a lot of things wrong, leaving a lot of money on the table and things that we weren't considering that we probably should have. We definitely should have actually. But the fact that we kind of like not knowing freed us up to chase whatever. We'd move into markets before fully identifying all the challenges and all the risks and all the costs and taxation associated with those, which was good because we grew a lot. And then we just grew the first, probably even after I brought in our finance manager, the first 2 years was just all grow. And then it was, okay, once we got to that point, let's, look at what we're doing and refine processes, look at where we're wasting money, where we're wasting margin, where we might be in a market that, is bringing in X amount of revenue today, but our ROAS is lower than everywhere else and the costs associated much higher. So is it really worth continuing to spend our effort chasing that, or should we focus on the markets that make most sense to us? And if we didn't have that different, mindset approach coming at that point, who knows if we would have still been around today? Because like you said, there's thousands of businesses that start brands. Dude, there would be thousands of businesses that have started an at-home IPL company brand. Thousands, without a doubt. Like I've told the story many times. Just on our tracker, at one point, we don't track competition anymore because we're just going to do what we do. And if they want to copy us, they can copy us, man, because they're always going to be behind us. But at one point, just in the people that we knew about, that we were aware of because they had done some sort of IP infringement on us, there was like 108 on our tracker. And then I looked at this earlier in the year when Evie started, and I was taking him through all our documents, and I said, just go check how many of these brands of that 108 are still in business. And I think there was like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So, there were plenty of other brands, and I know that there were some that we had to deal with that were in the game early, and they had a really good product to market fit early. And just because we had sold already so many handsets, it was still in its infancy, and they're all gone, man, because they didn't continually look at what they can improve in what they're doing, double down on the things that are working, so then you can, it gives you that buffer to make mistakes in other areas. And then releasing products that were by far guaranteed the best quality products on the market. And we've had competitors come in at times and sell IPLs for, almost half the price. And we very easily found who the manufacturers are, and we say, okay, hey, this is how much we'd order, how much can you do it for? And their cost price might be half of ours. But I said, how do you get to that cost? How is it so much cheaper than this? And they say, oh yeah, it's the motherboard is cheaper. This sort of plastic isn't used instead of the premium, like the glass or the crystal that is used in thing and all this stuff. I'm like, we're not going to cut those corners because we want to be a brand that's around for 5-10 years into the future, not a 6-month cash grab. So I think that's how we're able to get that fast start and then build on that and continue to, improve what we're doing to be able to still be around. Because there's been periods like COVID and all different challenges for businesses and anyone who's been in business for 5 years, like we have now, it's not always going to be easy, So
yeah. Well, there's a couple of things you said there that stuck out to me. The first thing is on a business sense of like what a lot of people forget and what I have forgotten in the past is the customer. And I was actually listening to a podcast on the way here, and they were talking about how the customer is so important. With and that's obviously something that you really like paid attention to and made sure that the customer experience is the best.
Yep.
The other thing on a sort of personal level and of who you are, and now I guess working with you for the last year, there's one thing that really sticks out to me more than anything, and I joke about this with you and stuff, is like your self-belief and your, like, we'll be having an argument and I know I'm right, and you will still 100% believe that you are right, even if you know nothing about the subject, and you will just the self-belief that you have. And for me, that's one of the big things that sort of sticks out to me as to your success, because a lot of people and what they struggle with is like all these different things that it's called, like imposter syndrome or like not having the belief. And you got to, and we've heard about this on Luke's podcast when he was talking about it, like your identity and who you see yourself is what you're going to portray to people. Yeah. Where does your self-belief come from? Where did that sort of begin? And
there's so many different ways we could take this, and we'll talk about self-belief quite a bit, but to link it to your last question, I think another reason we were so successful, and you're talking about thinking about the customer, although there were things we actively did to, get information from the customer. Also, a lot of it was intuitively what I just put myself in the position of a customer and thought, okay, if I was seeing this, if I was going to purchase this product, what would I care about? What would I want? If I was going to come across this ad, what would help, sell it to me? What would help highlight why I need this product and alleviate my concerns? So I just did that intuitively because I had no business experience beforehand. So doing that and seeing the results that I got from backing my gut feel and my intuition did so much for me. And I tell you, a lot of the times that I have made mistakes in business is when I started listening to other people and going against my gut. And a lot of the time it was people that were older or technically had more experience, and then they try and, subconsciously get in your head, oh, you're this young kid, what do you really know? Yeah, you've had one successful business. And it gets to you a little bit, or it never got to me, right? But it made me think, fuck, okay, I don't want to be this kid who, can't listen to advice, or, maybe they're right, maybe I should listen, even though my gut was telling me no. And then that's a lot of the times that I've made decisions that I regret it. It's listening to those other people. So backing my gut was a massive part of the success, particularly earlier on before we started to be able to learn from data and insights and that sort of stuff. But self-belief for me, where does it come from? I don't know, honestly. I'm in the process of figuring it out. I'll definitely, this will probably be one of the books I write. It'll be about self-belief, really starting to analyze myself and my patterns and my behaviors, as well as doing other, critical learning from research that's out there. I'll tell you what I think it is from my perspective now is there's a few things. there's, I speak about it a lot, my childhood. I had, and everyone that's, in this space will tell you that your childhood are your formative years, and how you feel about yourself and are treated, and then the experiences you have in that early part of childhood can impact who you are long into adulthood. And if you don't identify those things and resolve it, you will live your whole life a certain way because of certain things that happened in your childhood that you didn't realize and never understood. So I think I was blessed, man. I lived with my mum and my grandparents, so I was like 5-6 years of age, and that was the most beautiful, special period of my life. I would fall asleep on my granddad's lap every night. He'd carry me out to my granny flat. I'd wake up, have breakfast with my mum, go in there. I had my older cousin who was my best friend who lived just down the street. So I was surrounded by so much love and support, and so like that probably really built my self-esteem. And I was always kind of a bit of a performer. Like I liked, a little bit of attention, but it was always given to me in a really positive way. So I feel like early on that probably had a big factor in it. And then I went to school, and then what kind of reinforced, I feel like, my self-belief is like I did quite well in sport, and then I was very frequently top of my class or top 3 in my class. So as I was going through these pivotal periods, I didn't understand what was happening at the time, but this was reinforcing my internal self-identity by, okay, I already had come into school with a lot of self-belief because I had so much love and support at home, and I was never told that you can't achieve certain things. I was always, of course you can, whatever you want to do, you can achieve. So I just got lucky with how my family was to me. I could never have done that without them. So there was that. But then at school, starting to build confidence. This is another way people start to build. I think Armin mentioned it, but it's another notion for how people build self-confidence is building confidence step by step through achievement.
Yeah.
And so the next period of my life, going through my early teens and into my late teens as finishing school, I built my self-confidence by achieving, performing good in sport or getting top marks in this, getting into early entry for law at uni. And I had all these little achievements that built it for me, right? And it all links back into what you were just talking about, self-identity. And it truly is something that, again, I can't tell you exactly why I think the way I am or why I feel so so connected to who I am. I just know, and this is what I say, and people can take this in a negative way if they want to. People say, do you think you're special? I say yes. But like everyone should think they're special. I genuinely believe that. If you don't think you're special, then, I feel like, why are you here? Like you should, right? But that being said, I think that now, and I truly do believe it. And if I could give that to everyone, I would. But I'll tell you the truth, and this might seem, I don't know how it'll come across to people, but from a very young age, I did think I was special. And I didn't ever want it to become a negative thing, or never wanted to I don't think I ever have, honestly, put other people down because of it. I just knew who I was, and I was always very ambitious, and I always wanted to work hard. And I just always knew, even before I really could comprehend goal setting and what life can hold in store for me, I always knew I was going to do something special, even long before I had any right to believe that. I truly, really did. And then one of the biggest things when we started Happy Skin Co., I already had a lot of self-belief, but I tell you for sure, without a doubt, because I was acting before that as well, you think, okay, your biggest, wildest dreams, even me, that kid who grew up in that way, that had built his self-belief and self-confidence throughout the years, there was that little part in the back of my brain that was like, oh, who are you for your like wildest dreams to really come true? Like, yeah, I think they can happen, but do I know they're going to happen? Honestly, at that point, I really wanted them to, and I thought it could be me, but there's that part of you that like, you see all these people that are living these amazing lives and you think, that could never be me. But they're just human beings as well. A lot of them started out from humble beginnings, they weren't anyone special, didn't have rich or famous parents, and they were able to do that. So why can't I? And then when we first started to see success with Happy Skin Co., and then, our whole goal for 2018 was to quit our jobs. That was from April to, if we got to the end of the year and like you said, we could replace our income and work on that, we would have been incredibly happy. Yeah. We had to quit our jobs after 2 weeks. And then we had our warehouse and our first full-time staff after like 3 months. We made our first $1 million in like a month or 2 months. And it's like, then what we've gone on to do with the business, the whole Gary Vee thing, that, and we can talk about that later if you want, that experience. But these sorts of things that in my mind were like, fuck, these are like massive, massive goals. Once you start to achieve them, then you realize without a doubt that you really can achieve anything you want and you really can create the life you want. You just need to be really clear with what you want and what your goals are and believe that you can do it and just go after it and attack it with energy and enthusiasm. Because if you had the belief that I have, of course you would work extremely hard. Of course you'd be excited about life. So I think that's kind of like how I've got to this point. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still figuring myself out. And like I said, I'm going to reverse engineer the process. And there are certain things that I'm already aware of that, I'll write down my thoughts and start to be able to teach other people and give them this sort of a mindset. And it might not be from 0 to, 100 or my level of self-belief straight away. But if you can take it from you might feel your self-belief is currently at a 3 out of 10 and okay, let's get it to a 4 and a 5 and a 6 and just build upon that till you are a very solid 8. And then once you get to that 8, you can start to think about for yourself, how do I get it to that level? And that's what I say. I don't believe I'm going to achieve this thing. I know I'm going to achieve these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can totally relate to that. And even though I'm not at that level of success of what you've done in business yet, I even knew like going in school, I never did homework. Year 11 and 12, I honestly never did homework, never did anything. I did non-ATAR because I wanted to spend more free periods with my girlfriend at the time. It was literally, I dropped a subject so we could spend more time. Like I genuinely knew I didn't need school. And I had teachers say to me, like, you're literally said to me, you are going to amount to nothing. And and coming from like an Arab background and being the firstborn son, very much it's you get a degree, without a degree, you'll be nothing. Yeah. And it's like sort of that thing. But for me, I just innately believe without having anything to prove it was like, I know one day I'm going to be successful in what that is in my head.
Yeah.
Which is, so I can 100% relate to that.
To that as well. Even in school, like my teachers always believed in me.
Yeah.
I loved my high school, like Casula High is the best. And like, I had so much support and like so much belief put into me from my teachers that would say like, yeah, you're going to do something really special with your life. And even like I've gone back to speak at my school. Oh, I actually need to reply to an email to go, I'm going to speak at my school again, my old high school in October. Remind me after this show that I got to confirm. But like getting invited back to school, and I remember I spoke at the school one time, and this is another goal that I had for myself that I'd never said to anyone, right?
Yeah.
And again, for some people, you might think, who is this dickhead? You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's so egotistical to think that. But it's just another little goal in my, like, because you think of like, okay, you've visualize your life as that, A grade fantasy. If you could live the life and achieve everything you ever wanted and give, experience all these amazing things and give back to the world certain things that, what can you achieve? And one of these little things, and then I didn't tell anyone, was I always for some reason first thing I wanted to be invited back to speak at my school. I've done that. I was at another school, with those Year 7 boys last year, which was really cool. But so I've spoken at my school a couple of times and I love that. And they were like, oh, well, how much, like, what are your rates to come back? I'm like, guys, come on. As if I would ever charge Casula High for my time. But then the other thing, and this is where I want to get to, and I've always thought it, and I remember my old year advisor said this to me, this is going to happen for sure. And I said, yeah, you know what's funny? I've actually thought that. And it might not be like in the next 2 or 3 years. It might be in 10 years or 15, whatever. But I want, like, there will be a building at Casula High built with it's the Dylan Mullan building or the Dylan Mullan garden or something. You know what I mean? I want to give back to that school because I loved it so much. And yeah, I wouldn't change it. Like, I changed schools. I think I might have said before.
Yeah.
I went to a Catholic private school for like 3 weeks and I went back to Casula High. I loved it that much. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, cool. All right. Well, continuing on with sort of the mindset questioning, you are big into visualization. You've talked about it a lot on different podcasts, different content that you've put out. You actually haven't yet talked about your whole process for that. Could you let us know, like, your morning routine and how you actually visualize?
Yeah, so probably the best way for me to explain it is to give a full like walkthrough and example of how I do it and how I used to do it. Okay, what's a good example? I'll tell you one that I used to do all the time. All right, let's just do back when I was acting. right? Let's just say I'm acting now, which again, I don't act now. Will I in the future? Probably a little bit, but who knows? But let's just say I decide, no, I want to get back into acting part-time. I want to, achieve really like amazing things. And then my goal that I'm going to visualize will be, I win an Oscar. Like how cliche, every actor wants to win an Oscar, right? An Academy Award. Now, how I would visualize that is like, because if that's something that means a lot to me, I cannot, but this is something intuitively, but I've realized how powerful my process of visualization is. I can't just visualize that once for 10, 15 minutes and expect that to, be powerful enough to draw me and draw that goal together, right? So I just won't sit down and, visualize, my, okay, I'm at the Oscars tonight. And then, and the winner is Dylan Mullan. I get up and I visualize myself doing that speech. That'll be part of it, but that's like the final step. So, okay, from here, let's just say I'll leave this podcast and I'm like, I'm going to act again. Yep. Okay, I'll visualize from here, and each visualization, there's probably going to be like, we'll see how many there is. This is just an example. There might be 5 or 6 steps that I will visualize along the way. Each of these steps is creating not only an emotional experience in myself, but is creating the energetic attraction in the universe, because I'm feeling it, I'm living it in my mind, but then I'm taking action off the back of it, right? So what I will do, okay, we leave here and I think, okay, I'm going to message my acting teacher, Les. I'm like, hey, I'm going to want to come back to class. When can you get me in? Then I'll visualize that. I'll visualize going meeting with him. Hey, yeah, sweet. Like, how you been? I'll visualize that whole process, chit chat. And then I visualize, okay, I'm back in my first acting class. And I might visualize myself doing a couple of scenes, the first month or 2 back into it. And I'm not rushing through any of these visualizations. I'm spending time living them in my head, as in they're actually happening. And a lot of the times it's great, if you can sit at home in your bedroom against the wall in a comfortable position with the lights off, you can do that. But also where I do so much of my visualization is when I'm driving as well. Yep. Like you're driving, it's unconscious, right? In my head, like that's why some of these visualizations will go for an hour each component, each little scene will go for an hour. So I visualize the whole getting back into acting, that first month back in class. And then I will visualize the process of how I got my agent. I'm out somewhere, I'm with an actor friend and they bump into, oh, hey, this is my agent. This is just a random example. Yep. I'll meet that. Okay, yeah, Dylan, come in for a meeting. I'd love to have a chat with you, see how that works. Then I'm going to visualize the entire meeting, what I talk to them about, the scenes I show them, where we speak about for like the goals of where I want to take my career and who I am, what I've done and how I can add value to their agency and why they should want to work with me. That's the second thing done. And then I might visualize, okay, the first role in the chain of events that leads me into that role that's acting, right? I'll visualize the whole audition process, audition 1, 2, 3, potentially for that. And then I'll envision like, okay, in my city, I'm going in, I'm doing the audition, I'm meeting the director. Each one of those is going to be a 10-minute visualization in itself, right? And then I've done that, I'm on set, I'm filming. And then when I'm filming on set, then someone's talking about this other project or this other director they're working with. And then, okay, this director, hey Dylan, I really liked what you just did in that scene. I've got this other film coming up. There's this role that I think you'll be really great for. Can I have a chat to you about it? Okay, yeah, sweet. Then I'll go and I'll imagine this meeting, them talking to me about this role. And this is the role that I win the Oscar for. Like, cool, I would love to get you in for this. Can you come in audition for this? Obviously, you got to audition, but I think it's a really good fit for you. I go in, then I visualize that whole audition process, right? And then I get the role, sweet. Then next visualization, like, do you see how detailed this is? I'm not rushing it, but why would I want to rush these visualizations? Visualization shouldn't be a chore. Yeah. Like you are living and drawing to you your wildest dreams. You should be excited, filled with energy to do them. So I'll visualize that. Then I'm on the set of the film that I win the Oscar for, right? I'm getting close. Now I'm going to start going into even more detail with each one as we get closer and closer. And when I'm talking details, I'm visualizing. For me, I'm a little stickler for the details. Like if I can't in my head visualize the outfit I'm wearing, I can't move past it. I need to get clear, what outfit am I wearing? Like the small details. Where am I parking my car? Okay, I'm driving up. I'm doing the wardrobe fitting. And then I'll visualize myself having all these moments on set, acting, blah, 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 doing this. Then, okay, the next step, once I've gone through all the on-set visualizations, I will then visualize myself going into the opening night, right? But then going to the opening night, all right, who, like back then, let's say I was dating, I was single, like who's my date? Who am I? Then getting out of the red carpet, walking down the thing. Yeah, sweet, it was all good. And then, okay, I get the next one is finally going to be, oh, you got the nomination for the Oscar. I will visualize what I'm wearing, how I get my suit, the pre to that night. Okay, how am I getting to the Oscars? I've visualized going down the red carpet, talking to all the people, blah, 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 doing all that sort of stuff. And then I'm sitting down there, I'm actually genuinely visualizing and living in my head, like I'm experiencing these moments, all the awards before, who's winning them, like are they friends, are they other people from the film? And then it gets up to mine, I win it. Of course, I do the Oscar speech, and I'm going to visualize what I'm saying. And like, I'm fully at this point, I'm fully living it. I'm experiencing it completely. When I visualize, I say I'm time traveling and that's another way that I have so much self-belief, because if I've experienced these moments before, I truly have experienced them before. I've been here. How am I not going to feel like I belong there? So I'll do that, but I don't even leave it there. Okay, what's the after party? And then I'm going to fully go and then I live that. And that process to visualize all those things might be taken out over a week.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I visualize in detail, and I go extremely deep, and I let myself go there emotionally and physically. And if I can close my eyes and really go there, like so many times visualize the tears running down my cheeks, and I finish that. And like there's this vibrational energy all around you. You are drawing this into yourself. And then, man, for one, I'm fired up to go. And then since I've been doing that sort of visualization, I feel like nothing can stop me when I'm doing that.
Yeah, no, that's unreal. It's good to know that I'm actually doing it the right way.
Yeah.
Because
but like everyone's like, how do you visualize? Like there's no short answer to that. Obviously,
and everyone will be different.
You know what I mean? But this is what
yeah.
works for me. And I can't just like, I can tell you in 10 seconds, but you're not going to get a true picture of how I do it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so for me, with the visualization thing, so I do that as well. And I practice visualization like you. It's in the car. And I've said this before, but one of the things that I do is pretend I'm on a podcast and I'm being asked questions. So I will ask myself in my head, and this is a bit like cringe, but it's by myself. I will ask myself a question, let's say, how did you take the brand to $1 million? Like that would be a question I'd ask, and I will answer it out loud to myself in the car.
You answer it out loud?
Out loud.
Yeah,
so I do it in the car, and like I always feel awkward like when I'm at the lights, like talking. But yeah, that's something that I do. And then with, I guess, being here, like being in the room with you, and now obviously we're really good mates, but before that, when it was just, before all of that, you were just sort of a guy that I looked up to and followed you for a bit. And I wanted to sort of get into the story of how you and I met and things like that. So basically how it happened was, so I found out about Dylan because I worked at Crunch where you and George used to work and knew about the brand but didn't know, I knew about the brand through like e-commerce and doing that and drop shipping and learning about the brand and copied half your website from my brand and
As
stuff.
1,000 people did.
At least I didn't copy the product. But so I did all of that, knew about you, and like as soon as I found out about you, I remember the first podcast I actually listened to was the founder one. And then from there, just like any podcast that you were on, like listen to the one with Luke, like Luke's one, listen to sort of bunch of podcasts. And I've always wanted to work for someone like yourself. So it actually started probably 2018, I think. I wanted to work. High Smile was like it was at the time where Nick and Alex were doing YouTube, so they were vlogging. And like that was like seeing them. They're on, I think they're at Mermaid Beach on the Goldie. Like it was really cool. Wanted to work for them. So I listened to a podcast. It was actually a Diary of a CEO podcast where Stephen was talking about how people want to come and work for him and gave him like gold letters and stuff and how it's really cool. So then from there, I decided to try and work for High Smile and I bought a dessert box where you can get them delivered, like the donuts and stuff. It wasn't like one of the ones that like
the Dixie and stuff.
it's a normal one. And I bought a domain. The domain was like www.standingoutfromthecrowd.com.
Wow.
Pretty cringe now. So I bought the domain and I shot this video, basically talking to the camera. It was literally, I got the camera as my phone, turned it on. I'm like, all right, hello. Like, my name's Joe. I'm wanted to come and work for you guys. Was like, I just want to work for free. I just like, you and Vonnie have talked about it, like working for free, I think is such an important thing to do. And I think everyone should do it, honestly. But for me, yeah, so I reached out to them, sent them this dessert box, this video where it got delivered and it was there. But no reply. Yeah. I don't think they saw it. It said delivered and stuff. Who knows? So I didn't hear anything. But anyway, so from then when I found out about Dylan, I was like, okay, I gotta work for this guy.
So it's your backup plan, huh?
Yeah.
There you go.
my second
backup
choice.
after high smile, you know, gotta take that.
Yeah, so you should have started vlogging, putting out content more, maybe it would have been. But anyway, so then with Dylan, what I wanted to do was sort of the same thing. And I started messaging you. First, I think I messaged George, and then you guys were posting stuff saying you were hiring. I was like, okay, this is perfect. I honestly messaged you, every couple of weeks.
Because every time we hired for a new job, looking back, but did I see them at the time? Were they seeing like... Maybe so.
No.
I think I had replied to you.
You replied
once or twice.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So anyway, I kept messaging you. Then there was a job that came up, which is like customer service. I'm like, okay, well, like I can do this. It's not like at the time I didn't have any background in digital marketing like I do now or anything. It was just, oh well, I've got the skill set. Apply for it. I did a video. And then in this video, like I set up my bedroom, talked about like crunch. I had like all my books in the background to make it look like I was, sent it to you, didn't get a reply. I even was messaging George like, oh, hey, what should I do? Like, how can I stand out? But yeah, no reply. No reply again.
That one actually wasn't my fault. I told you and I showed you.
Yes.
The forwarded email. So for when Happy Skin Go High is we get like minimum 100 to 200 resumes sent through. And then I will get usually one of the team. I had one of my friends, Gina was helping me out with some like admin stuff. I was really busy and she had time. And I said, hey, can you like get this list of whatever 150 down to like, 20 or 30 and I'll go through them. But she's hired before, like she knows what she's doing to it. Well, apart from maybe missing you. But yeah, she did, and then you do make the cut, unfortunately. But better because how much better is this than
exactly right? And everything happens for a reason. I remember driving where I was when, like I found out that I realized like I wasn't going to get it, and I even remember thinking like something will come from it, and like my girlfriend at the time, I remember like telling her, like it's all good, like everything happens for a reason. And the same thing like leading up to everything that I'd sort of done when. One door closed, it was another one opening, and it sounds so cliche, but that's really what was happening. And then eventually, first what it was me and Yui were going to do work for you guys, and then from there, then you put up the next day.
Oh, had you already hit me up for that?
Yeah, so we had already talked, and then the first thing was that we were going to do ads, like we were going to create ads.
Context for people who don't know what we're talking about, before Joe had started working on the podcast or anything else I'm doing, he and Yui, who's our videographer, were starting a content agency. And they said, hey, Dylan, and I by this time I'd known Joe's name enough by just randomly seeing it pop up. Said, hey, Dylan, I'm starting this agency, would love to make a couple ads for you guys. You know what I mean? Are you, like for free? Are you keen? Do you mind like do it? I said, yeah, sure, mate. Let's do it, whatever. And then the next day it must have been, or very, very soon after.
Yeah, it was like a couple of days later, then you put up that story.
Yeah, I put up a post saying essentially like, hey, it was a long caption looking for someone to come and work essentially on like the podcast, my personal brand stuff. I'm not sure if I said exactly what it was for, but I said
no, it was,
it's got to be someone who's really into self-development, self-improvement, challenging themselves, ambitious. And I said at the same time, like we were still figuring out what the podcast was going to be. All the other things were getting fleshed out. I'm like, this isn't a paid role at the start. I want to make that very clear. And then I still had, 60, 70 people message me. Yeah. But because I remember your name popping up a couple times beforehand. So like you being persistent was what made you then when the opportunity came up, now you're top of mind. And then I knew by how much you'd been trying, and then like you told me about the video and you're willing to work for free, make this content stuff. I'm like, okay, this guy gets the mindset of what it's like to be at the start of building something. So I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. and then I think we had a chat and explained kind of everything. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had your number by that time.
Yeah.
And then because I wake up early, I would then make sure to text you as soon as I woke up so you would see what time I was awake.
Oh, yeah.
So, he's up early. And I
Yeah.
remember you even said it to me. You're like, oh, yeah, like I've seen you. You're up early. You text. Yeah. So, yeah, like, and that's outside. And I remember then we first, like, I came here and we went to the cafe and stuff. And I
Yeah.
remember sitting there, I was like, this is generally something that I'd visualized.
Yeah.
And this is something that I've thought, and now it's
See,
come and
that's
it's
crazy, right? The power of visualization and like
Yeah.
just that little payoff. Even though again now you just mates with me, it's completely normal. But at that time, I'm sure it was like a little bit like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and we're just getting started.
Oh yeah, everyone will find out about all that stuff soon. So
Cool. All right. Well, let's go into. I want to dive into a bit of business questions. So, working with you, pretty much like day to day now. I see a lot of the back end of how things work and things like that. What would you say is the hardest part of your job?
the hardest part. There are a couple things I would say. There's two things different depending on which way you want to go with it. The first thing that's the hardest part of my job and being me is the balancing act between so many different projects I'm involved in.
Yeah.
And there'll be people at Happy Skin Co that need me to respond to them on something. There'll be the podcast and a couple other of these projects that I'm working on. And what I was speaking about before, that balancing act of, okay, I'm really passionate about all these goals, but being cautious of spreading myself too thin and then removing myself from certain things where I don't need to be a bottleneck, like empowering people as much as they can to make the decisions rather than waiting for me. So that was a really big challenge, being able to, because the way I like to do it is like a lot of people say, like that classic saying, your life won't outgrow you.
Yeah.
I think that's really important at the start. And I had to outgrow, like me mentally had to outgrow where I was in life to be able to start this whole journey of Happy Skin Co and what it's become. But then you get to a point where you aren't going to grow fast enough. Well, I wasn't growing fast enough to what my goals were and what I wanted to achieve. So I will bite off more than I can chew, fuck it up a little bit go through the teething process, and then catch up to where I'm starting to manage better at, keeping all these, projects in the air and putting enough of myself into that. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges. And then for business, in terms of like specifically business, what's been one of the hardest things about the job that I didn't understand getting into it. Again, I think I was 24 when I launched the business, had no prior management experience apart from Crunch, had no previous experience really hiring anyone, is the whole communication piece and understanding that everyone, and it sounds so simple, and it is, of course, but everyone communicates differently, needs to be spoken to and communicated to in a very different way, and they'll need different things from you. And learning that when you have a team of 10 people, some older than you, like double your age almost, some younger than you, all with very different personalities and experiences and needs. And then I have all that to manage and be able to do my best for all the team. But then also I'm this young, business owner, first time in business. I have all these things I need to do in my day, and then managing all that together. That was a big learning process. And then being able to identify how I should speak to this person to get the best out of them versus what this person needs is very different.
Yeah.
And I think through business, in a way, like you have to learn, if you want to be a business leader, to become a lot more selfless, because 80% of your day is going to be helping other people and helping them do their jobs. And then you need to find the time to then make sure you're working on the things that you need to be working on. And that balancing act at the start was probably a big thing that I learned, and definitely something that pushed me to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, one of the things that I've realized sort of, working with you is that I've got to give you, I know how little time you have. So it's about coming to you when I have a question. It's like, all right, here's option A, B, and C, give them to you. Okay, what one is it?
Yeah.
And then doing as much of like sort of the groundwork and all of that.
Yeah.
And then you're just in the final say. And that's, I feel, what works best.
And that 100% it works best. But also what I've been able to do to help with that is bring in people that understand that and identifying those types that work And I'm not saying this is the right way to go about it. If you're trying to build one business to take it to $1 billion, which isn't necessarily the play I'm going for, you need to be able to work with everyone and give your best to everyone else. But kind of the way I looked at it, and that's why I've had so much success hiring friends or friends of friends. It's like, I could do that, and there's an element of that still. You're never going to completely just hire people exactly like you, but hiring people and bringing people into your inner circle that understand the way you work and complement that and work with you, I found was really important to me. Like bringing on people in different areas of the business that they know more than me about that thing, which is great, which is super important. But also it's not about them to understand how I work. I've identified how they work and understand that is going to work well with me, and then working with those sorts of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. On the same subject, what's your, like, if there's one day, and you've asked this to a few people, but is there been the one day that was your hardest day in business?
Honestly, I don't think, for me anyway, there has been one hardest day.
Yep.
I'll tell you that the hardest thing is when there's 3 hardest days in 1 week. That's the challenge. It's that when you're in business, and this is something else I had to learn, if you don't like solving problems, or if you don't like having responsibility or having to deal with stress, then you should not start a business, because it never ends. And if you are going through a period in business where everything's just going right and working, enjoy it, because it won't be long till things go wrong. And they're not always critical things, but at the time they are really important to your business. And if you don't fix some of them, it will be critical. So it's changing the way that you take on this new information, these new challenges and new issues you need to solve. And instead of thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I have to deal with this sucks, it's like, that's a part of the game, and it's something you just have to deal with. So that I actually got used to faster than that whole other, balancing act and communication piece, because I realized, no, the first few times it happens and then the business is okay, you start to realize it's just part of it. And if I don't want to deal with this sort of stress and pressure, then I shouldn't be in business. So I got over that one pretty quickly, but that's what it is. Like, it's just day in, day out. Sometimes you'll get, problems stack on top of problems, and you can start to feel sorry for yourself. But if you let that go on too long, then just get out. Like, it's not for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said before, pressure's a privilege.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's sort of start to wrap up. I'm just conscious of time. Let's get into, like, what's the plan for the next 5 years? Where do you want to sort of take things? Obviously, where there's a few things in the works that we can't talk about yet, but what's the plan for the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, it all links back to what I was saying at the start. It's all like pushing myself forward to grow, and then moving my life in the direction that I know is taking me closer to being in a position to fulfill my true life's purpose. So, specifically, like, Happy Skin Co's at a really exciting phase. We've just started our retail journey. So getting Happy Skin Co through as many stores as makes sense across the world, Australia, US, UK, Europe, Asia, even the Middle East, there's potential there. So really growing that side in terms of Happy Skin Co. I have another business, Dahlia, that we'll be launching in about the next month, which is cool. Similar sort of industry, women's wellness to Happy Skin Co, but I think that business is going to stand for a lot and can do really good things as well. And it's all about, creating products that improve people's quality of life or access to these products. And then, as you know, man, like, the podcast is something I've been passionate about for a very long time. I've been talking about starting this podcast for probably 2 years before I got around to doing it, or my life allowed me to do it. And it's fun, man. Like, you're seeing, like, the accounts starting to grow, the listeners starting to grow up every episode, and then, like, starting to have these clips go viral, and then, like, these positive messages are creating impact. And not that we're creating a podcast just to educate people. We want it to be something people can listen to and enjoy and relax. But starting to book these guests that are completely outside of my network is exciting. Just to grow the podcast will be an amazing journey. And this is something I am not at all concerned about the destination.
Yeah.
Obviously, we want to be one of the biggest podcasts in Australia, without a doubt. But that's not what we come in and have these meetings about. It's like, okay, how can we create the best possible content? What are we going to enjoy talking about? What sort of guests should we get in? How do we start building this thing and enjoying the ride? And that this podcast will be a massive part of the next 5 years. Obviously, the speaking stuff that I do, maybe get back on some more stages as the world is opening up now. Events are back on, so that will be good. And start to figure out a way. I've done a lot of consulting and I do a bit of speaking, like, you know, how to scale my message and how to like synthesize my message. So working out how to best, you know, create something that allows me to do that. And then definitely, maybe not in the next year or two, but in the next 3, 4, 5 years, I definitely want to start writing like a book. I'll probably write a few books, but there's a couple ideas that I think I could do a really good job writing on. So, and again, all of it kind of links back to what's that A grade fantasy? Like, what sort of person do I really want to be? And seeing myself as that, and like, okay, if I want to become this person, how do I need to show up today and put the work in today? And how does this person behave? And that's how I need to start behaving now. So everything I do is about growing myself and taking my life closer to exactly where I want it to be. So for people that are in a different position, if they're in a job that they don't necessarily like, but they have a dream to do whatever it may be, start thinking about who that person is, what they do each day in their life and where you are from now. You just got to connect the dots, right? What's some steps along the way that's going to take me to getting to that point, and start, you know, taking like new habits and behaviors and patterns that these people do, and start step by step taking yourself closer to that. So that's the next 5 years, man. It's all about exploring purpose, taking myself closer to, you know, the impact that I want to be able to have on this planet.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's finish with one question that's sort of come to mind when we're talking about the podcast. One guest, your ultimate podcast guest.
Oh,
I know there'll be a couple.
the ultimate podcast guest, man. That's so hard. Hey,
You can do 3.
Let's just go from my gut. All right. One, I think Conor McGregor has to be one.
I thought I'd be in there.
Obviously because I'm a martial artist as well, but it's not about that. It's not about, you know, even the success, not about his whiskey brand. It's not about, you know, obviously I don't agree with some of the behaviors that he does and how, but he's just living his life to the fullest. He fucks up a lot. And I'm not saying that I want to be exactly like him, but what I love so much about the Conor McGregor story is where he started as that plumber working on minimum wage, hating life, but he had that self-belief in how he was able to completely change his life to one of the biggest like sports stars on the planet in the space of 7 years, from nothing to that, and the amount of self-belief he's had and the amount of challenges he's had to overcome along the way, and how his self-belief never wavered, and how he has used visualization. I get a lot of energy from hearing about that story because super motivational. That would have to be one for sure. Another one, man. Oh, dude, we got to get our tier list of guests out again. I think one of them, I have to pick one actor.
Yeah.
And it would be out of Leonardo DiCaprio or Cillian Murphy.
Yep.
Fuck, I'd have to say Cillian Murphy right now.
Yeah.
Where I'm in life. Leo's like been like always like my favorite actor growing up and everything, but I think right now I'd have a more interesting conversation with Cillian, and that would be one for me personally. And then the third guest would have to be someone from business. Like I could obviously say Gary Vee, which would be sick, but
Yeah.
that'll happen for sure. Anyway, so if we're gonna go real crazy, it's probably either Elon or Mark Zuckerberg.
Okay. Zuck, really?
Yeah. They've just shaped, well, particularly Mark Zuckerberg has shaped our whole generation. I feel like it's really interesting. There's so much I don't agree with about Facebook. Of those two, right now, because I'm starting to be more disconnected from Zuck and Facebook, probably I'd go with Elon. Just really ask him about where he sees the future of the planet and why he's working on what he's working on, and what he's doing to try and, you know, change all that. I think that'd be a pretty good 3. And watch, as soon as we get off here, I'll remember another one that I wish I said. So,
well, okay. No, I like that. That was a good couple. Mine, this would be my 3. So number 1, Steve Bartlett, just because.
Oh yeah, that would be epic.
Because besides our podcast, my favorite podcast.
Yeah.
Number 2 would be Phil Knight.
Oh,
Nike
really
founder.
good one. Yeah, love Shoe Dog.
My favorite book, Shoe Dog. And number 3 would be probably Steve Carell. Just because
Steve Carell.
I love The Office.
Yeah.
Either him or Simon Bird, who plays Will in The In-Betweeners.
Really? That's interesting.
Only because I grew up on In-Betweeners. You tell me, like, I can word for word every scene, every episode.
That's good. I really like the Stephen Bartlett one. That's a good shout. That could he could give Elon a run for his money. But just the opportunity to like see the things about like Stephen Bartlett, Gary Vee, why I didn't say those, like we will interview them, I know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like Elon killing, like you don't, those can.
Phil Knight might not be around.
Phil Knight can, like those sort of ones are like I wanted to pick, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's see how many people we do interview over the next 5 years. That'll be exciting to see.
Yep. We're only getting started.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's everything. Do you want to wrap us up?
No, that's that was a different one. Me as the guest was fun for a lot of people to give a little bit more context about who the fuck's this guy I'm listening to interview these people every week. Yeah, we'll probably do another one, you know, down the line when we got another big new audience. So for now, that was fun. And thank you. I think you did really good first time hosting.
Thank you. I hope so. The TikTok comments will tell me if I didn't.
TikTok. let Joe know if he fucked this whole thing up. I'm joking. Nah, you did really good. Cool. All right. Thanks, man.
Cool. Thank you.
Done. All right, there we go. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, could you please do me a quick favor and hit the follow or subscribe button? I honestly appreciate it more than you know. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.